friends, how's it going? Welcome to the Action Channel. So today I think we should talk about an actor that in my mind could have made it big time, but for some reason it just didn't quite work out that way. And this is a segment that I have about what I call the forgotten action stars from the 1990s. Because there were so many great action stars back then. But I mean the ones that went straight to video, that had so much potential, and in my mind they should have made it big time, but for some reason it just didn't happen. Today, let's focus on Mark Dacascos.
Alright, so by now you guys know the drill around here. Please like and subscribe to the channel.
Before we really get started, let's show you guys a little appetizer of what this man is really capable of. Mark Allen Dacascos was born on February 26, 1964 in Oahu, Hawaii. His father, Al Dacascos, is a martial arts instructor whose parents originated from the Philippines and were of Chinese, Filipino, and Spanish ancestry. His biological mother, Moriko, is of Irish and Japanese ancestry. Mark Dacascos has revealed on the History Channel that many of his mother's family members were actually killed during the bombing of Hiroshima during World War II. His stepmother is an award-winning martial artist, Malia Bernal, and she was actually the first woman in the world to ever feature the cover of Black Belt magazine, and she did so in 1974, when Mark was just 10 years old. At the time, in the 1970s, she was without a doubt one of the best and toughest kung fu chicks on the planet. She was also into competitive fighting and asked some of the promoters if she could fight some of the men. In recent years, Mark Dacascos has described her as a drill sergeant, and we now know why he became so good, because he had the best teachers.
Now, as you can see, you don't become an expert in martial arts or achieve any greatness in life without putting in the work. And as you can see, Mark Dacascos has put in blood, sweat and tears over and over and over again.
When he was 6 years old, his family moved to Denver, Colorado, where Dacascos began his formal martial arts training. And just 1 year later, he started competing. At 11, his family moved to Hamburg, Germany, while he continued to train and compete. And when he was 17, Dacascos traveled to Taiwan to study Mandarin and Shaolin Kung Fu. He won numerous karate and kung fu championships between the ages of 7 and 18. A big moment in his life was in 1982 when he was named European Kung Fu Champion in the lightweight category. By now, Dacascos was looking for some other challenges in life. He moved back to the States, and one day Mark Dacascos walked down the streets of San Francisco when two guys stopped him and asked him if he would be interested in auditioning for a film. At the time, Mark Dacascos actually said no because he wasn't an actor, but then he thought about it and realized he didn't really have many other things going on in his life at that point, so why not give it a chance? He booked the audition and suddenly found himself on a big movie set. In typical Hollywood fashion, all his scenes were cut from the film. However, he realized maybe this acting stuff wasn't such a bad idea. Over the next few years, Mark Dacascos had a few minor parts here and there, a little bit of television. In 1992, he landed the role as the bad guy Kenjiro in American Samurai.
Finally, he had the chance to show off some of his martial arts moves that he had spent many years studying and showcase them in a film, so the whole world will get to see you. I mean, that is pretty cool, wouldn't you say? I remember thinking, this man is so scary. It was the first time I ever saw the man, and I thought he was great. Scary, but great.
The movie, however, could have been better. It was decent and okay, but it could have been spectacular. It could have been bloodsport with knives and swords. Unfortunately, that just didn't happen. The following year, he played the main character and the hero in the movie Only the Strong. The movie was a real breakthrough for young Mark Dacascos, and it gave him an audience. I was one of them. Only the Strong was directed by Sheldon Lettich, who also directed movies like Lionheart and Double Impact with Jean-Claude Van Damme. In the film, Mark Dacascos returns to his hometown of Miami after completing military service in Brazil, only to learn that his old high school has become a haven for gangs and drug dealers. Soon after, he uses his capoeira skills to kick several drug dealers off the school property. One of his old teachers sees the impact that he has on the students and gives him the task of teaching capoeira to a handful of the worst at-risk students at the school. It doesn't take long for Mark Dacascos' character to create an enemy in the local drug lord, played by Paco Christian Prieto, who also happens to be a master at capoeira. Get ready for the big showdown! Yeah, as you can see, the fights were really cool and awesome. Definitely something we had not seen before. And I guess you can say it was one of the surprises of the film. From what I remember, Mark Dacascos barely knew anything about capoeira. However, because of his martial arts background and his athletic abilities, he caught on pretty quick. He trained for the part for several months, and as you can see, he ended up doing amazingly well. Now every generation of action stars come along and hopefully add something new and different to it. And that was also the case with Mark Dacascos. Personally, at the time, I had never seen anyone jumping in the air the way he did. It was absolutely spectacular. Now he had to do a lot of preparation for the part. He also ended up gaining 10 to 15 pounds of pure muscles. I believe he worked out at Gold's Gym in Venice, California. So he became more muscular and leaner as well. But this was also the 90s, where it was all about martial arts, muscles, and all that stuff. So why the hell not? In the 90s, Mark Dacascos continued to work in martial arts and action movies. In fact, over the last 30 years, the man has worked on dozens and dozens of movies, and it will take all day just to mentioning half of them, so I have decided just to pick out a few and focus on them. After the tragic death of Brandon Lee in the early 1990s on the movie The Crow, a lot of people predicted that Mark Dacascos would take over as Hollywood's new leading man, at least in the martial arts and action department. Later in the 90s, he even appeared in the TV version of The Crow, Stairway to Heaven. In the 2003 movie Cradle to the Grave, Mark Dacascos had the chance to play the bad guy. And best of all, he was up against martial arts legend Jet Li. Interestingly enough, Mark Dacascos was always a huge fan of Jet Li ever since he saw him in the Shaolin Temple when he was just a young man. And now, 20 years later, he was fighting him on the big screen. The fight in the end is pretty awesome. What's really interesting here is that Jet Li, of course, is known as the Wushu King, but Mark Dacascos has also studied Wushu. However, since this is a crazy action film, they don't do the traditional Wushu moves. Most of it is, over-the-top martial arts action, which of course is how it should be in a movie like this. Crying Freeman is about a woman who sees an assassin outside of San Francisco killing several Yakuza men, and later when she's back in Vancouver, she's been told that he leaves no witnesses. Will she be his next victim? What makes this movie interesting and different compared to other similar movies is that not only does the hitman fall in love with his mark, but she also falls in love with him. Don't get too disappointed now, there's still plenty of action and lots of dead bad guys. This movie meant so much to me because I saw it when I was just a teenager and it made such a great impression on me. I remember watching it at the movies on opening night and I just couldn't get enough of it. I saw the film with a buddy of mine and we were both into Kung Fu at the time, so to watch this movie on the big screen was better than all the candy in the world. Strangely enough, the movie did not have a theatrical release in the US. However, there is a happy ending here. Julie Condra plays Mark Dacascos' co-star in the movie, and in real life they fell in love and married just a couple of years after the movie was released. And now, decades later, they're still together and they have a family with 3 children. How often does that happen in Hollywood? Mark Dacascos actually appeared on Dancing with the Stars, but let's not go there, because this channel is all about death and destruction. John Wick Parabellum stars Keanu Reeves alongside Halle Berry, Lawrence Fishburne, Mark Dacascos, Aisha Kate Dillon, Lance Reddick, Angelica Houston, and Ian McShane. In the film, John Wick goes on the run from a legion of assassins after a bounty is placed for his murder. And who is one of those assassins? Yeah, you guessed it. Mark Dacascos himself. He actually played the main bad guy, a great role in a big film. John Wick 3 or Parabellum was theatrically released in the United States on May 17, 2019 by Lionsgate. It grossed $326 million worldwide, becoming the highest grossing film of the franchise in just 10 days. Anyway, instead of talking dollars, why don't we talk about body counts instead? The first John Wick movie features 77 on-screen deaths at John's hands. John Wick Chapter 2 skyrocketed up to 128 fatalities. And the third one had 94 on-screen kills. However, we should mention that it had a lot more fight scenes, and Keanu Reeves has mentioned that the third one was the hardest movie to shoot. Mark Dacascos has been a pretty busy man over the last 30 years. He has appeared in over 20 TV shows and over 50 movies. Even though he never became a big movie star, unlike Jean-Claude Van Damme or Steven Seagal in the 1990s, he has still kept pretty busy, and only time will tell what his next projects will be. Well, there you have it. Mark Dacascos was absolute badass, and he still is to this day. Anyway guys, if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. That being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.